beautiful people. It's me, Jenny D from Spill With Me, Jenny D Podcast. I am here with returning guests. I have Joe and Sue Sweeney, who are the, what would you call it?
Co-founders.
The co-founders of the Asservo Project. I had them on my podcast in January for Human Trafficking Month. And now I brought them back because we really need to talk about it and talk about what's going on and some fundraising that they need help with. So Joe, further ado, or Sue, tell us about what you do for the people who don't know about the Asservo Project.
Sure. The Asservo Project started in 2017. Was really the first year that we incorporated and applied for our nonprofit status to combat human trafficking and child exploitation. How we got to that point was in 2016, my background's 29 years of law enforcement and federal government service.
Right.
And I had a friend of mine ask me to help rescue some kidnapped American kids who were taken to South America. And I happened to be overseas at the time, and he's been a friend for many years, and I knew he was doing this, but for some reason, it just started me in my spare time to look into it.
Right.
And when I started basically Googling kidnapped American children, I'd say hunt for the next 8 months.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I'd come home, leave again. You know, I was doing rotations all over the world with my government job. We, after 8 months, found out numbers were estimating 27 to 30 million people a year are sold into slavery.
Oh my gosh.
Globally. And it was in the 90s, I guess, $90 billion
None of
turnover.
us, have been aware of that. I don't think any of us really knew.
At the time, I never heard of those numbers
Right.
or understood the scope of human trafficking and child exploitation.
Yes.
So we really did a deep dive on this, and we didn't start this lightly. I was busy. Typically at the time, I was 6-7 months away, doing my contracting work.
Right.
Sue was busy running. We have a small business at home, and when we decided to do it, it was thought through. We knew this was going to be a lot of work.
It's going to take a lot.
And it was an epidemic that nobody wanted to hear, nobody wanted to talk about.
No, nobody's talking about it.
Nobody, until just recently. We certainly now have had
Yes.
a little bit of an impact, but that's what started it, and we just committed to it. We got our nonprofit status the same year, and really it was Sue and I, and we had a volunteer at the time. We just went to work.
Right.
I just went to work.
I thank you both for getting this going, because I felt like if you wouldn't, who else would?
We weren't looking to do this.
No, but it came into your lap. Like, it's almost like those things that you think to yourself, I need to be there. I need to be that person to just start.
I describe it as God put a Post-it note on my forehead I couldn't take off.
Yes.
I couldn't get the numbers of these people and these kids being sold for a profit out of my head. And neither could Sue. I mean, we just couldn't believe it. So we really went to deep lengths to verify what we were learning and understanding, and we just started it.
At the beginning, we didn't think the stats were real.
Right, you don't.
We just thought, no, that can't be. There can't be that.
Right.
And certainly not in the United States. So it only happens in third world countries. But then the more we went into it, the more we realized, yes, it's happening here in every single state, in every single neighborhood.
Right.
And people are so unaware of it here in the United States. They only think it happens in other countries.
Right. And Sue, with you being a mom and a grandma, how do you feel like when you started this? Was it a little hard for you?
Yeah, it was a little scary to think, of the things that we heard and we saw, especially when we started investigating it a bit more, and you realize some of the horrific situation these children are put in. You try to sleep at night thinking how these children are treated, and it's very difficult.
I can imagine.
If I was a young mom, it might be very hard,
But this is the time for them to be aware of what's going on,
but
because it's social media.
Yes, it absolutely is social media in this country.
Right.
In other countries, it's very different. The model is very different in third world countries to what it is in the United States. But in the United States, social media is the main cause of this.
Of where they're finding it, right?
Yeah.
Sure, it's basically a network that the predators or the traffickers use.
Right.
Every kid is on social media, right?
So it's easy for them.
It's easy, so they jump on there and they're targeting kids who are vulnerable,
Right.
and that can look 100 different ways, depending, what's going on in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
You could have a severely dysfunctional family. You have kids in the social service system, foster care kids sometimes fall between the cracks. You could have kids who are bullied at school.
Right.
You can have kids who have some mental health issues.
Right.
And then we've seen kids that are in perfectly wonderful families that
Yeah.
still get targeted.
Right.
And they're at Christian schools and the family's wealthy and they have everything and they still,
Why do you think that is?
somehow they find a vulnerability. It could be that child is
Attention.
looking for attention, looking for love, looking for friends. There's some kind of vulnerability that they pick on.
Right.
And it can be a million things.
Yeah, we've seen it. COVID really exaggerated the problem, right? Because everybody was stuck home.
You couldn't leave.
So everybody's on these things.
Yeah.
These kids, they think they're making new friends. The gaming apps are another
Right.
platform. And some of the kids, they're like Sue said, they're looking for something. There's something missing in their lives. It could be just love from their parents.
Right.
But you've got to also think about when you were 13. When all of us are 13, we're all messed up at 13. There's no 13-year-old that's got it together really.
Yeah.
Every 13-year-old is looking for something, and so the predators play on that. They look for whatever it is, whatever that vulnerability is, whether it's love, whether it's looks, whether it's and the other very scary thing is, having spoken to so many school kids now, we realised that at least 50% of the school kids now are sending sexually explicit.
75%.
Is that like a catfish?
No, they literally send nude pictures of themselves to
Right.
their friends.
Or they'll think that this person is
Well,
a woman.
But they'll just send it in their own school, like they're dating this boy, right, for
Right.
2 weeks. Okay, he's my boyfriend. They send nude pictures to each other. Now this boy is no longer her boyfriend. Now he's shown into every other kid in the school,
Right.
But
It's going everywhere.
we've asked kids, why do you do this? And they'll say, oh, it's no big deal. Everybody does it. They
Mhm.
trade nude pictures like
And
our
video-
kids
and
used
videos.
to trade Pokemon
I just
cards.
heard, and I know you told me this story in January, but I just heard from a woman last night that she said that there is a boy was catfished. Actually, he's in his 20s, and he was like thinking this girl is this beautiful model girlfriend. Oh my gosh, she's giving him all this attention. She said, "Send me a picture." So sure enough, he sends a picture, and now I think he committed suicide because they threatened and said, "Look, we're going to put this everywhere.
And
You're going to have your family, your friends, everybody. You have to send us." And I forget how much it was, but it was like
money,
a lot of money.
sextortion,
Yes.
and we have no stats on this, but Joe and I firmly believe that we know that the teen suicide has gone up since COVID exponentially, and we firmly believe that has something to do with it. These kids get so stressed out by what's happening to them, and they don't want to tell their parents, and so they end up committing suicide. It's terrible.
It is terrible.
They think there's no way out. So when we do the school presentations, one of the things that Joe does, and our lady Brenda, who does the school presentations, is to tell the children there is a way out. If this has happened to you, or even more importantly, if it's happened to one of your friends.
Right.
Because the children that it's happening to might not know it's happening to them. They think this is their boyfriend, or they think this is their friend they've met online, but their best friend might realise that's not right that she's talking to this
Yeah,
guy.
who is
This guy's 10 years older than her. He's gathering her along. So maybe that person it's
Brainwashing,
happening to, it could be her friend that pulls her out of it, that says here's a place you can call and they're going to help you.
Yes, that's the thing. These kids don't know where to go. They're
Right.
embarrassed.
Right.
They don't want to tell their parents or friends or family. But
Yeah.
there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way for them to have an outlet or just a hotline to call. And you do have a hotline.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, we have a national tip line.
Yes.
We're you can call even for just resources.
Right.
It can be anonymous if you like, but most of the tips are the people that call us leave their name and number. They want to talk to somebody
Right.
because they suspect maybe something in the family, or there's something wrong with an individual that maybe is too close to their children, but with an age difference, or maybe
Right.
they're spending too much time online.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things Sue said, like, they are all on social media, and this is where they call catfishing, or these predators they're assuming to be somebody else.
So us as parents, we're so busy and we're doing all these other things that we are not really paying attention to their
Right.
phones or what they're doing on the internet.
You know, if you let your child take their phone to bed, you have just opened them up to the entire predatory world that's online.
In the world.
That
In the world.
sounds
Not
so.
just US, but the world.
Oh my gosh, Joe, that
The
sounds
world.
horrible.
And I had a conversation with some parents the other day, and they have a 16-year-old, and they
Yeah.
said it is a battle to the point it's disrupting the house. The 16-year-old thinks they're old enough to have their phone.
They're watching all those videos, yeah.
Sure, and they're on there talking to people, and it, you know, I get it. I mean, not everybody's a predator online, but to give you an example, they estimate there's 500,000 predators online globally every day. And you have a reach, right, globally. So then
What was the stat that Homeland just brought out? With that
Oh,
each child.
1 in 5 children are exploited online every night, sexually exploited online every 9 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
1 in 5.
1 in 5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this is globally.
Yeah.
So that wasn't, when we talked in January, I don't remember.
No, that's
That's a
just
new
come out,
stat.
and I do believe that might be just the United States. I'd have to research it.
Oh my God.
1 in 5 kids, because like Sue said earlier, it's videos and pictures, and they get in the wrong hands.
Mhm.
It starts out innocent enough,
Right.
or some of them just do it with strangers out of the gate. I mean, we've spoken to thousands of kids, and we'll do a Q&A at the end. And it's anonymous. We leave cards. They write their questions, you know, and they pass them forward, and they have them on there. Okay, I've already sent some videos to this person, and they won't
What
leave
should
me
I do?
alone.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. They want more. They want money. They want to meet me, and I don't know who to talk to.
Oh my gosh.
You know, and it's a growing epidemic. It is not slowing down. It's getting worse, and there needs to be a public-private partnership to make a difference in this.
Right.
Because, you know, having been in law enforcement and federal government service for 29 years, I talked to the detectives and the investigators, and they're working. I mean, they're working
They're doing
hard.
as much as they can.
They're like, Joe, we don't have enough manpower budget to keep
Right.
up. So there's got to be answers out there, but somebody's going to have to take the lead, and we're one of those organizations that's going to see how we can help and how we can support not only law enforcement. You got to get legislation changed. You got to get education programs in there.
Right. And it's awareness, like
And
what
you've
you're
gotta
doing
get-
for the schools.
You've got to get society to change. Society has to understand
Right.
that this is a problem.
This isn't a
You
joke.
can't turn your back on
Yes.
this. You can't turn your back on
Just
this.
because you're not hearing it every day doesn't mean it's not happening
Right.
every day. Every couple, like you said, 1 out of 5 every 9 minutes. Oh,
Mhm.
gosh.
Yeah.
One of our young analysts said something to me that I thought was very profound one day. He said, you know, this is the first time in history that the kids know more than the parents. And it's absolutely
On the
It's
tech,
on
on the tech side.
Yes.
Yeah.
you know, so that the kids can hide things on their phones even if the parents are looking for it, because the kids know more than the
I
parents.
know. I had to ask my kids, being, you know, public with my podcast, I would get these friend requests, and I said, should I friend them? And they're like, no, Mom, they have no posts. They have no followers.
Right.
It's a scam. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. You know, I don't know. I'm just
Right.
thinking they want a friend request me. And they're like, no, Mom, come on. So I'm learning as I go, even
Yeah.
as being an adult.
Right.
So I feel like they do know more, but the consequences, they're not sure of what's going to happen if
Right.
they do something. So they need to be aware of that.
Well,
Yeah.
it's until the kids that are like 5 or 6 now are parents, then they'll know more than the kid.
Oh,
More-
yeah.
But at the
It's
moment, you've got
growing.
that like 20-year gap. You know,
It's so true.
I mean,
You know, and I know we can talk about this, you know, for days and months, and I mean, it's just, you know, as long as we're bringing awareness. But I know, Joe, that you wanted to talk about the movie that just was out.
Yes, The Sound of Freedom, we've seen a huge increase in discussions. People reaching out to us, asking for more information, asking us if we can come to their schools or come to their churches or community
A light bulb went
organizations.
out, right?
Yeah, they left the movie, although the movie's set overseas for that particular
Where was
operation.
it? It's in
I believe it was Colombia. It was
Colombia.
where it was
Colombia,
set.
yes, it was Colombia.
In Ecuador was
Yeah.
the beginning, but it does not look like that here in the United States. It looks different,
Mhm.
but it got people thinking. What I want to learn more. What can we do? Because I think it scared them. They realized something just with a sharing of a photo or personal information with a
Right.
stranger online, where it could take you.
Exactly. And then for them to just see it and hear it on the news, but to watch a movie and
Right.
actually see
What could
visually.
happen.
Yeah, because sometimes I feel like visually when you see something, it's
Mhm.
more impactful
Mhm.
than you would just hearing it on the news.
Sure,
Right.
absolutely, 100%. And
Right.
so we've been out there. I mean, we get a lot of requests. Schools now this coming semester, we have several already planned. We have other organizations like the Rotary and some others, that they're planning events to have us come and speak.
Wonderful.
To get the information out there.
Because we need the funding, right? Is that what you?
Yeah, that's our biggest challenge now. We'll be starting 7 years here.
Right.
We have the personnel. We have the investigators. We have our analysts who are hunting predators online. We have educators. We have teams who can do surveillance. I mean, and plus you have the people the adults that are stuck in it, trying to get out of it, right?
Right.
So we also work that from our partners who are in restoration and recovery organizations. Like, hey, we need your help.
Yeah.
We have a boy or a girl here, 20, 22, 24, 30. We need some assistance moving them to one of our locations.
Right.
And it costs money. That's our biggest challenge right now, is trying to keep up with the funding requirements. And as you know, we've rescued kids in Africa, Mexico, Asia, where we're part of a security element over in Nepal. There's 30 girls there, and the traffickers found out where they're at, so they're aggressively trying to get them
Oh
back.
my God.
And the youngest girl's 8, the oldest is 16.
Oh my.
So we try to focus on the United States.
80% of our work is here in the United States.
But we do get requests for help in other countries, and if we can, we do. It
Well,
depends on the funding
yeah.
and our availability.
And like you guys said in the podcast we had in January, Human Trafficking Month, these kids, you'll rescue them, but it's not like it's over. Oh, okay, you're good now. We
No.
rescued you. Bye.
No.
Oh,
No,
tell us, Sue.
Well, unless you have somewhere, especially in other countries, unless you have somewhere to put that child, they're going to be back doing the same thing in a month, because the traffickers are going to get them back. Because in the third world countries, sometimes the parents have actually sold the girls, because they'll keep the boys because the boys can work. If
for money, they're selling them.
well,
they want
yeah,
money.
because they're starving. They're starving. So in order to feed themselves and the boys, they sell the girls. So it's not always that they want to, but that does happen. And as Joe said, they can be kidnapped. I mean, 2 of our kids in Uganda were kidnapped on the way to school, but you can't then take them back to their parents,
Right.
because they might have sold them, or they don't want them, or they're too much for them. So unless you can't, we could right now go to Uganda and rescue 50 kids, right? But if we don't have anywhere to educate those kids, then
Right.
what's the
Because
point?
they're going to need therapy. They're going to need.
So the 5 kids that we rescued last year, we have in private schools, but we are paying for everything. It's like they're our kids now.
Right.
We can't take them out of the country because that wouldn't be legal. But they are in private schools. We're paying for their mattresses, their uniforms, their medical, their food, their pens and pencils, every single aspect of their life we're
Tuition,
paying for.
yeah.
Tuition.
Wow.
So, without the money, we can't keep doing that, because we're still.
They're going to be back on the streets.
They're going to be back on the streets.
Well, and it's the same here too. The kids in the United States, we primarily hunt predators online, right? Every predator that can be taken offline, we share information with our law enforcement partners all over the country, depending on the jurisdiction. One predator equals 50 to 75 children will not be victimized by that person. So that's a number. That's a real number
Yes.
for us, and that's our niche,
Right.
as well as education, like
Yeah.
Sue says.
Yeah.
If we get into the schools, which we have thousands of kids already, and if we get 30% of them recognize this,
Yes.
they know. Some of the kids, maybe their families are more structured. Some of the kids don't have such a good structure at home. They can help them.
Right.
They're like, hey, listen, I think we need to help. We need to talk about this. So it's a lot of work. It's a beast. But if we collapse on it, we really believe the needle can be moved.
Right.
And that's a start. And of course, there's a whole bunch of other things that have to occur. And we have strategic partners in recovery and restoration that we can rely on.
Definitely.
and the laws, we have to change the laws.
Right.
We have to make the buyers need to be instead of having a slap on the hand,
right? They need to be accountable.
they
for
need
what
to
they're
be
doing.
accountable. So that's one thing. But we have been working with legislation in Pennsylvania, and hopefully we'll go into Washington
Washington,
DC
DC.
eventually, and change legislation. One of the laws that just got changed in Pennsylvania, you can talk about that, Joe.
Well, it's a bill that passed the committee.
Oh, really?
Up until now, a minor who's been abused, and they're accusing an adult of an abuse, they have to physically be there in court to identify their abuser.
Oh.
So if you're
That's
8 years
hard,
old,
yeah.
how are you going to sit there and
I
point to this
know.
person who's 30? And apparently Pennsylvania is one of the few states still that has that law, like that's the requirement. So we've been working with Senator Dush. He has been a champion in Harrisburg for these initiatives.
Yeah.
And it's bipartisan. I know the Senator Pro Tem Kim Ward was part of it, and a couple other state senators. They're looking now that that's not a requirement anymore for a child. So now I don't know the next phase. It's going to be brought up, whatever the next phase in the committee is, for it to be voted on is passed. Probably another year.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a bipartisan. There's no demographic that's excluded from this,
I
right?
know, it's like, you're the prototype. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, there's no race, there's no money, there's nothing. It does not. Human trafficking doesn't discriminate at all.
Right.
If the trafficker can make money out of you, if the deviant lifestyle can make money out of you, they're all good with that. Doesn't matter.
Right, it
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
It truly is one of the greatest humanitarian crises of our time.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, to where now I think
yeah.
we mentioned it's upwards of 49 million people a year are sold into slavery globally.
See, I don't think people can, focus
Right.
on that number is just way so high. Like, how
Right.
can this be happening?
Right.
It's not
Right.
like. But not to interrupt you, hon. But let's get back to the Sound of the Freedom movie.
Mhm.
Do you think that movie is pretty much like an example of really what could happen?
Well, it's an example of how it can happen overseas. That Taken model or that model
Right.
is not as prevalent here in the United States. Now, does it happen? Sure. About 1% they estimate are either this fake job promise, like a modeling agency like the movie portrays, or taken, right, just snatched.
The white vans at Walmart that everybody thinks is how it
You know,
happens in this
yes,
country, but
yes.
it isn't.
It's less than 1%. It's about 1% of the time that it does. But what the movie does is start the conversation. It's bringing awareness to this problem.
I'm surprised that they were able to even make this movie. I was surprised anybody offered to pick them up, like as far as producers.
Yeah, apparently it was made 5 or 8 years ago. I
think
can't
it's
remember.
2018. Yeah, I think
2000.
So. I think so.
Why do you
Yeah.
think that is?
Well, apparently the production company that made it got sold,
Okay.
and then the people that bought it shelved it. They didn't want to release it.
No.
So they went through a bunch of legal and people trying to buy the rights to it, and finally Angel Studios were able to make the deal, and they crowdfunded it to get it into the theaters.
Yeah.
Nobody out of the Hollywood entertainment industry wanted to promote it.
I know. See, this is what I don't understand. I mean, why are they? I mean,
Wish I had the answer.
Well, I know. Who was the big actor? Was there any big actors in it?
Yeah, Jim Caviezel, who was in Passion of the Christ, was
Okay.
probably the biggest actor in it.
Do you recommend it for every family?
Well, I would say absolutely. I mean, it's Hollywood, right? I mean,
Right.
but it's based on a true story, and I do think people should go see it to understand this was just one mission.
Right.
One mission. I mean, I can't tell you how many cases we have a month going on here in just the States, not counting our overseas stuff. So I do think people need to go educated, because at the end there's an interview, I would say, with Jim Caviezel talking about it and the problem, and you got to get involved.
Right.
You got to get involved now before you call our tip line or you reach out to us saying, my 15-year-old's missing, I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had those calls.
Right.
I've had those calls at midnight. I've had them at 6 in the morning. We've had them on our tip line. We've had calls where my 14-year-old son shared a photo. Now these people want money and they're threatening on putting it on social media. It happens every month.
Right, and they can call you. They can
Sure,
call your
sure.
organization, and you guys can help.
Sure.
Instead of people saying, "Oh my gosh, I don't want." And that's the thing, awareness with parents to know that this could happen to you.
Right.
This
To
could happen
anybody.
to anybody.
It's not oh, I live in a great neighborhood, or
Right,
my
this
kids
doesn't
go to
happen
a
in
Christian
our-
school, so it's not going to happen to me. It happens to everyone.
Right.
There is no demographic.
You know, and once the photos and videos are out there, they're out there.
Right.
And
So-
that's what something that kids don't understand.
When the parents call us and they realize somebody's already extorting them, there's no taking those photos back.
Right.
So there's no magic bullet here. Okay, make it stop, make it go away. There's only, okay, what do we
Once
do
it's
now
gone,
moving
yeah.
forward to change it? You know, and it is possible to get away from it. And listen, it happened. Okay, now we work on making it right for you and your family. We try
There's
to.
a way out of this.
Yeah,
There is a way out of it.
sometimes there's predators that are known, and we'll get leads on them, and we share them with law enforcement. You know,
You can find them, yeah.
it all comes together.
And educating the children is such a huge thing. What they don't realize is these photos, as Joe said, they never go away.
Right.
So, you're 12 years old, you're sending nude photos, and we've heard that so many times. They're even younger sometimes.
Do you think they're afraid to talk, like, they don't want to scare their kids to talk about it?
I think so.
Yeah.
They think that the kids are naive, and they're not.
Well,
They say the average age now for a boy to look at hardcore porn, not just soft porn, hardcore porn is 11 years old. So if you're not getting to your kids, if you're thinking your 14 and 15-year-old can't handle this,
Right.
you're totally wrong, But I was just saying that, like, these kids who are 12 years old, they don't realize that, now you fast forward 10 years, now they're coming out of college, they're looking for a job. Somebody's
Oh,
scrubbing
yes.
their social media, and here comes up new photos of them
I
at
know.
school at 12 years old, and unfortunately they don't see the danger of that.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
think, it's
They
not a
don't-
big deal.
No.
When you have 500,000 predators online every day, which is the estimate,
Yes.
that's a lot of people gathering a lot of information on vulnerable kids and adults. This
Right.
isn't excluded to kids. I mean, that's why we're focusing on the education to get them educated. And we know probably 80% of the kids we talk to have already done it. We get it,
Right.
because we get some pushback. Well, what's that doing to help? They've already sent the images. Well, we're showing them a pathway forward.
Right.
They don't have to commit suicide. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
teen suicide's up since COVID, and there's a lot of factors, but there's no doubt this is a piece of that.
Right.
We've known
Absolutely.
4 or 5 national cases where the kids have left notes.
Mental health, your
Mhm.
mental health.
Mental health.
state,
They were
yeah.
so embarrassed to shame the family they took their own lives
It's just
instead
not.
of going to their parents.
It's not. I know you make a mistake. I mean, you don't know. You're
And
young.
we all make mistakes. when
Yes,
were
we all
younger.
make
Yeah, right,
mistakes.
right.
You know.
Yeah, but there's a way out.
Right.
And if people really don't believe this is happening, look at a thing on Netflix called Sextortion, and that will show you what can happen.
Right. I kind of, before we wrap this up, I want you to talk about some of the fundraising so that we know that people can come and help,
Mhm.
because I think that's the biggest thing right now. If we can have people donate or even volunteer.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So tell
All
us-
the
yeah.
above. Yeah, we have a fundraiser event in September 30th called the Barefoot Mile with one of our partners.
Is that are you sure that's not? Oh, it is the 30th. What day is that? A Saturday?
Saturday.
Okay.
And that's at the RMU track over on Neville Island.
Okay.
You'll see it on our website. Our website has all of our events listed, where we're speaking. You
Okay.
come out and listen to us talk. You can introduce yourself. You want to learn some more. We'll be glad to meet with you there. We started a campaign this year. The average age for a child to be trafficked is 14 years old. That's an
the
average.
Okay.
So we started a campaign for $14 a month. You can help us move the needle. That money goes directly to identify predators online, find out where they are, who they are, so we can share this information with law enforcement to get them offline.
Right.
Because if you remember, as we said, right, every predator equals 50 to 75 kids not being victimized. These kids will never know they could have been a victim
Yeah.
with this person taken
Right.
off.
Gone.
So
Bye.
that $14 a month is huge, and we thought it was a number that most people can get behind.
Mhm.
We were also looking for business partners. We have a few people coming to us that have businesses, and they want to get behind us in stronger ways financially. They want to learn more. They have a lot of employees who have children.
Right.
So now they
It
want
hits
to,
home when you realize,
they want to be,
kids.
they want to actually make the difference too. You know, they have a bigger presence, a bigger bandwidth, so to speak, with their company.
Right.
So, you know, we're looking for partnerships. We're looking for philanthropy too.
And what people don't realise is, I do all the administration for the Asservo Project, is that everything that we do is very expensive.
Yes.
You know, the software that we use to go after these people, I mean, is very expensive. Aeroplanes are very expensive. You know, to fly to Uganda is very expensive. Joe's been to Nepal this year.
Right,
And
all your
Cambodia.
travel, yes.
It's not cheap. None of these things that we do, and even our 5 kids in Uganda, you know, as I say, if we had more money, we could rescue more kids there and put them in schools. So all of these things, it's
Every
crazy
little
to
bit
say,
helps.
every little bit helps.
Yes.
And so the more the funds we have, the more we can do to help.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
And especially in the United States, the kids we're helping here, our laws are different.
Mm-hmm.
So there's more manpower hours, you know,
Right.
to get that done. So as Sue said, we appreciate everybody. And also volunteer. There's a page on our website where you can sign up and volunteer for our newsletter. Keeps you posted on current trends, what's going on. You know, our volunteers typically will come and help us with labor, just in fundraising events,
Right.
things like that. One of the things we don't need it from a volunteer perspective is I guess we'll call it the cyber program. All those people that work in those areas are people that I've worked with over the 29 years. What we haven't discussed is a corruption factor here of people on the demand side.
Right.
So everybody that works in those sensitive areas are people that we've worked with for 20 years plus. We do appreciate the ones that do have some skills and offer that, but we're pretty full there. We're pretty covered there. But
I'm glad.
we do need,
That's
even
good.
people just want to host an event for us to come
Right, 'cause
talk. That's
yes,
huge. Awareness and education
awareness
is
is
huge.
the biggest thing
Right,
right
in
now.
education.
Yeah. Awareness and education is our #1 goal.
I so appreciate you guys coming out here and talking about this again. I mean, I can't stress how many times I just want to say to people, please be careful. Please watch your kids, watch social media. And I know, you know, maybe some of the listeners don't want to hear about this because they're like, it's not going to happen to me, or oh my gosh, that depresses me. But this is so important. And these 2 wonderful people, Joe and Sue Sweeney, are really taking this on. And we thank you so much for what you do for our children and human trafficking and anything that's helping anybody that's being kidnapped or exploited. I mean, this is what our world is. We got to help each other.
That's right.
You know, I mean, you lose sleep over things that you can't control, but if you donate or be a part of the fundraising and you want Joe and Sue to come out and talk, this is your time. Just get on there. Tell them your website, honey.
Yeah, the website is theasservoproject.org, and that's ASSERVO.
Perfect.
And there's a contact page. Reach out. We'll be
Right.
happy to call you back, talk to you if you have any questions. You know, somebody will get back to you. Typically, the tip line is for leads, so I wouldn't say leave a message here if you're just looking for general information. You can email us direct, and you can do that right from the website. And we thank you. Platforms like this are huge to get the message out there. You know, there's a lot of organizations that are advocates out there. We can connect you if you're not from the local area. You know, we have partners all over the country.
Right.
So we can get you connected with somebody close by. It's gonna, like, and I'll use Sue's example a couple of years ago. It's like Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Years and years and years, you had those dozens of moms who would not stop knocking on the doors of legislators.
Right. That's what you got to do.
And you know what? Now, 30 years, 40 years later, it's changed society on how we act. This is the same thing. We got to keep.
Don't give up.
Don't give up. We keep pushing forward. We keep making changes. We keep working hard to help these kids and put these predators where they need to be and held accountable.
Absolutely. Thank you both. I
Thank you
appreciate
so much,
it.
Jenny.
Always a pleasure.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. I mean, people like you that I meet, I'm so glad I met you guys because I feel passion for this because I really want to help people and I want to help these kids that are going through this and adults. Because we were
Sure.
talking that it's not just women, it's also the boys.
Yes, it is.
100%.
And if there's anything else you guys would like to add,
No, thanks. And
Yeah,
if there's
thanks
anything you
again.
need from us, you know, just reach out. And we look forward to seeing you at the next event or
Yes.
wherever You know?
Absolutely. Thank you so much,
Thank
Sue
you.
and Joe.
Thanks,
Sweeney.
Danny. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, hon. This was Spill With Me, Jenny D. Take care.